optimize. So we've gotten rid of the big stuff. Let's just optimize anti-age in this world that's so toxic. And, in the last 4 years, I have to be careful with what we talk about here. There's just this compounding of issues that say, okay, the equation's changed now. More histamines. And we mentioned Terry Cochran. I'm a big believer in her dietary protocol. And you've just got to navigate a little bit more to figure out your symptoms, what the root causes. But it all comes back to cellular health.
It does.
We are as healthy as our cells. When our cells die, we die. And what people don't realize is cancer cells are the weak cells in our body, but if our body's not strong enough to fight them, that's when they take over, or any disease cells. And you've got dietary toxins, you've got more radiation, you've got more heavy metals, we have the spike protein, and then people have the medications that really screw everything up.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the importance of cellular health, the cell membrane, how that works, what the toxicity is doing to our cells, and then what we can do about it.
So there's nothing more root than a cell. So when we talk about root cause solutions or root cause wellness, obviously, I think a lot of people are taking individual nutrients and they're approaching it from, okay, let's take CoQ10 or PQQ or something, NMN or urolithin A. These are all individual kind of levers that you can pull, but it's not going to change the whole picture of your cellular and mitochondrial health. And so what happens when we are assaulted by the toxic soup that we live in, not to be fear mongering or anything, but the reality of the world is that we are all exposed to hundreds of thousands of different chemicals. They're in the air, they're in our soil, they're in our food, they're in the processed foods that we are consuming. And we are exposed to heavy metals. So you have heavy metals, chemicals, biotoxins, environmental toxins like mold. And the reason that we have the rates of disease and childhood illnesses and all of these things is we are now experiencing quite severe mitochondrial dysfunction on very many levels. And so what we really looked at and what my grandparents' research brought them to in the early 90s was there is a role that is critically important from the cell membrane. This is this wall, essentially, that protects what's outside the extracellular matrix versus what's inside. And all the organelles within our cells also have membranes. And so what happens with the toxic sludge that we live in is that toxicity, the toxins should live in the extracellular matrix. What's happening is they're bombarding that wall and they're breaking through and they're getting into our cells, they're getting into our mitochondria, and they are altering our epigenetics. They are changing the genetic expression that we are born with. Those genes that we are born with are a blueprint. They're a DNA blueprint. They're an architectural drawing. We know this from the work of researchers like Dr. Bruce Lipton, but it's the actual membrane that is responsible for the communication between the cells. And so what happens when these toxins alter our membrane is it changes all these really important sites within the membrane, the receptor sites, the ion channels, these peptides, all of these things start to alter. And we see it as a breakdown in our health. So while we can do so many different protocols and detox protocols and different things for our health, if we are not maintaining the integrity of our cell membrane and our organelle membranes, these things are still going to be happening to us.
So when my son was first diagnosed with leukemia, we did a live blood cell test and his cells were all clumped together.
Yeah.
And they literally looked like donuts because they had no nutritional value inside the cell.
And those are heavy metals.
Right. So we put him through a supplement protocol, no drugs, no chemo, no nothing.
Wow.
Within a year, his cancer was gone. And the cells were nice and dark and plump and looked nutritionally healthy. It was amazing. And it just showed that if the cells are nice and stuck or not nice and stuck together, how can anything get in?
How can we, yeah.
Right. And you and I both suffered from insulin resistance with our PCOS. Now, a lot of people have insulin resistance and they say it doesn't, I don't understand. I'm not eating a high sugar diet. Well, if the cells are full of toxins, right? The cells are full and the glucose tries to get into the cell and the insulin's knocking at the door. The cell says, no, I'm overstuffed with toxins. I don't have room. So all of these toxins and the other stuff that we're dealing with is making all of these disease factors worse, away from just sugar, right? So it's, yes, you shouldn't be eating too much sugar, but that is not the only thing. And I love that the name of the cell membrane is cell membrane, because it is the brain of the cell, right? It knows what to let in and what to let out. We got to get the nutrients in and we got to get the toxins out. So let's talk about PC. And the I hate this word because it's so hard for me to say.
I know.
Phosphatidylcholine. Why can't they just call it PC, right? But the cell membrane also has an iodo-lipid value. What does that mean? Lipid, fat, iodo, iodine. And everyone who's listened to me knows I talk about the importance of iodine. It's important for the ATP production inside the cell, for the membrane, because of that iodo-lipid value, and then also to cleanse the blood outside the cell. So this is why I love, because the iodine really works with the PC for that health of the cell membrane.
Yeah, I think that's it's a very powerful combination. I think minerals in general play such a huge part, and that mineral balancing plays a huge part in cell health, in cellular membrane integrity. So the bilipid layer that surrounds our cells, specifically 50% of the outer layer is phosphatidylcholine. And then you have ancillary smaller phospholipids like phosphatidylserine, which is more popular in the market because of its assistance, short-term assistance with memory, recall, brain function, et cetera. But the reality is what you want is a blend of all of those phospholipids that work on the inner and the outer layer. Also, organelles tend to have different ratios. So while phosphatidylcholine may be the most important phospholipid for our outer cell membrane, the inner, for instance, mitochondrial membrane has different ratios of phosphatidyl, inositol, ethanolamine, all of these. It's a choline head with fatty acid tails. So this is where other healthy fats like essential fatty acids come into play that are critically important as well. And we can touch on our products for essential fatty acids when we get to that, because they're very specific and treated very carefully. I think what's most important that people understand is that it's difficult to get these things from our foods now. And so there is a need, because we are under a greater assault from these silent toxins, right? Like we're not aware. It's not a sugar that you can taste. It's in the lawns that you're walking on. It's in the air that you're breathing. And so what I always recommend to people is, by supplementing with these phospholipids, we are ensuring that cellular resilience and integrity of both the cell and the organelle membranes. And so that is one of the important steps in just living a healthy life on a daily basis now. Because even if you eat all the right foods and you are eating a lot of meat and you are consuming a lot of eggs, the conversion, of course, these are biological substrates. Our body is making these all the time, but we're not making enough to truly keep our cells healthy. And you see this a lot with things like live blood analysis. You see it a lot with people who do very in-depth blood testing to look at how their health is being affected and how these toxins are affecting their health. There's this incredible blood test out of Germany that looks at your mitochondrial function and your DNA adducts. So what toxins are sitting altering our epigenetics within our cells? And you can see very clearly BPA, glyphosate, all the different molds, so many, I mean, PFAS, all the forever chemicals. And you can see your limits. And what I've seen in people's tests considerably is, on day one, we have very high limits. We have very high values of heavy metals, of all of these toxins. And you'll do a 6 months to a year of taking PC, and all of those get to tolerable. And it's just incredible to see that something so simple can help people to detox in a healthy, nutritious way that's also supporting their cells.
I always say that detox was a fad 20 years ago. Now it's essential, right? we all have to be focused on that detox. My 20-year-old daughter, college student at USC, she rows for the rowing team. She comes
Nice.
home from college and we get her scanned, and her heavy metals are through the roof.
Mm,
Now, mind you, she tries to eat as well as I've taught her, organic. She's in college. It makes it a little more difficult. And we're sitting there going, where are these heavy metals coming from? Well, she rose in the port of Los Angeles, which is very toxic. So all of these heavy metals, it's not from the food necessarily,
it's
it's
the
from the
air.
air she's breathing. And so we're going through this detox summer. Not really fun for her. But anyways, this is one part of it, is the PC. And for me, I had the spike protein exposure couple months ago. My vision was bad. I actually pinned it down to the varicella virus that was inflaming my optic nerve. And I tested the PC, not just on my overall body and health, but literally for my eye health. And it like lit up the test. And
Interesting.
there's something about this that my body is just craving, to the point where I actually crave the taste of it.
Interesting.
When when your body wants something where the taste is neutral, and it's like, oh my gosh, I want this more than candy, because my body's saying, I love this, give me more.
Interesting.
And my vision is perfect now. I don't wear glasses. I don't need them. It was more of a viral activity inflaming the optic nerve. And now that is gone. It's dormant. Nothing's there. And I take this. It's part of my detox protocol with all of my cleanses that I have on my my website.